All right, when you continue to hear solidarity forever, it tells you that something is wrong somewhere. We often have heard that song between ASU and the federal government so many times in the past decades.
Yes, indeed. And that song continues to be sang. Well, we have with us to discuss poor funding of universities and incessant strikes right now, Professor Anthony Killer. Good morning. It's good to see you.
Good morning. Thanks.
Good to see you.
Yeah. Good morning.
Yeah.
Okay. Just give us an idea of what you think about what has been going on with ASU, you know, face-off with government. ASU has been insisting, look, federal government, you have to do something about fixing tertiary education in this country.
Yes.
Otherwise, this strike will continue for as long as it can.
Yes. Well, I mean, there are three things going on. One is, ASU says they need more money. You know, that's the crux of it. They need money to get their job done. You know, they need libraries, they need facilities. And if they don't say it, I say it for them. And they need more salary. They need to be paid more. Of course, it's my constituency. I would say that, wouldn't I? Yes. And government says...
Well, one of the governors actually says that many lecturers actually earn more than his 500,000.
He should shut up. Whoever that governor is should shut up.
Okay, I'm not going to say the
I
name
would
so
say it.
that
Anthony Killer says the governor who said I should shut up. Has he worked as hard as them? Has he read as much as them? Let's not go there.
Yeah.
That's on one side. On the other side is the fact that government says there's not enough money. You know, the situation of the country, the economy does not allow for such thing, and they're looking at it. So that's number two. ASU says no money. ASU says they want more money. Government says there's not enough money. But number three is that ASU says there was an agreement that you signed with us. It doesn't have to be this government. It's a continuum. Government is a continuum.
Yeah.
It was signed before you. So, you know, that brings a question that those in power, do they or do they not want to respect agreements signed by them? Nigerian government has a terrible knack for entering into negotiation and not want to respect it. This starts from the Aburi Accord to a lot of other things. We need to look at that. But then let's look at the people involved. I think part of the problems we're having is in a way threefold. One is a legitimacy issue.
Legitimacy
issue, moral legitimacy. Okay. And we look at it. The other one is finance. And the third one is vision of governance. So I break it down. The legitimacy issue is the fact that when you look at the people involved in the debate, the struggle, the controversy of university and university funding in Nigeria, you would think that the stakeholders are who? Government, lecturers, students, and their parents. Now here we have a problem. When you look at it that way, and the people negotiating on the table are government and universities, and you know, a representative of government. But there's a problem. Majority of the people representing government are not parents of Nigerian university students. Because most of them have their children abroad or in private universities. Majority of the people dealing on that table are not direct stakeholders. They're not really stakeholders. They're stakeholders by function. And that breeds suspicion between the ASU people and the government people. Because ASU, in their mind, they're not saying it, but in their mind, they're looking at government and they're thinking that you don't really care if we go on strike because your children are not there, because you are not there. And that is a huge problem that they're having. The other problem, and now I go to my constituency, the other problem we have as well is that, and I hope ASU wakes up to it, is that there's been too much, maybe due to finance, but I think there's also cultural and a mindset about it. There's too much deference of the academia to the political world. I cringe when I see Vice Chancellor bowing their head when they shake the hand of the governor. You know, I cringe when they accord all those kind of accolades. We can be respectful and polite to each other, you know, but in a sane society, academia rules, ideas rule the world. So when you bow ideas and thoughts and creativity to power and finance, there is a problem. There's a huge problem there. So that is a legitimacy on both sides. I think ASU needs to even when they're not involved. The academia in this country needs to come out more and lead the discourse in terms of ideas, in terms of morality.
All right. We were speaking with the ASU president
Yes.
just about a week ago, and he was saying that when it comes to, some persons have accused ASU of not being creative in the ways of raising funds and always depending on government. But he
Yes.
said that is not true, because ASU is a makeup of intellectuals.
Yes.
Certainly, that cannot be argued, because we're
Yes.
talking about doctors, professors, and all the researchers. But where is the missing link when ASU and the university system has to go back to government every time to look for money for everything,
And
infrastructure, welfare, and so on?
That is the third point I was talking about. That is the vision of governance.
Right.
We need to sit down at some point as a country and decide what role does education play in our national life. How do we view it? Do we view it as something that comes after general salary, agriculture, defense, health, and everything? Or do we view it as something that is essential? I think the two most essential things in life is education and health. They come before roads for me. Those two things, education and health. But it depends on who is governing us, depending on the vision. It would be good for ASU and well-wishers of education in this country to push towards total independence of the academia. Total independence will encourage more ideas, more creativity. It will also encourage them to find ways of raising funds. It's a question of governance. If the government feels that education is very important, then they'll find ways to fund it. And they fund it in a way that will respect the independence of the academia. If there's not enough money, then we have to sit down and say, look, here we have a problem. The money is simply not there. We need to devise other ways of getting money. It is also true, and I think some people in government are thinking it, but they're not saying it. It is also true that when you go into Nigerian universities, you see people who claim they cannot afford to pay the tuition fee. But then they use phones and airtime that is more expensive than the tuition fee itself.
Now you're even talking about that, but let me take it from that angle. There's a preponderance or proliferation of private universities in Nigeria right now.
Yes.
And they do pay high fees.
Yes.
In the
Not to talk of
regions
the ones
of
abroad.
millions and all of that.
Yes.
Now, how justifiable is it when you hear people say, look, yeah, tertiary education should be free. As a matter of fact, government should continue to fund these universities.
Yes.
While parents actually bend over backwards, whatever it takes for them to pay school fees in the private universities, they actually do.
Or abroad.
Or even
Or
abroad.
even abroad. That's
so
what,
how realistic is it?
that's what we have to be
to
careful with
expect-
statistics.
yeah.
We need to be careful. When you say parents pay, some parents pay.
Some,
Yeah,
of
exactly.
course,
A
absolutely.
lot of parents
Some.
cannot afford it.
Okay, so a lot of parents can't afford it, and government is saying in solving this problem,
Yes.
so that we can get out of this vicious cycle of strikes every now and again,
Yes.
come up with an education bank,
Yes.
where students can actually take loans,
Yes.
and when they start working, they can
pay
pay,
back, yes.
you know,
Yes.
instrumentally, like it's done in other parts of the world.
But it's an idea.
But
I mean,
ASU is saying, no, we don't want an education bank, because we had it before, but unfortunately, it went on the ground.
And
because
besides that,
of
they also
corruption.
say there is no assurance that, when they graduate, they get a job.
who's saying that?
The
ASU?
ASU said
ASU
That the
saying
children
that.
will get a job.
They-
Yeah,
there's no
children
no,
will get a
no
job.
guarantees
There's
that
no
they will get a
assurance.
job
There's no
after
guarantee.
taking
taking the
loans.
loan, well, that is their concern. Their duty is to prepare them to get a job. You know, that should be taken off ASU. But they have concerns, and it's true. You know, they said they've done the bank before. The bank has gone aground. So it's negotiation. The government has to go to the table with very clear vision. Government in terms of citizenry that represent the citizen has to go to the table with a clear negotiation to say, look, here's our problem, here's our constraints, and these are our proposed solutions. I think overall, is ASU, as representative of the body of the academia in Nigeria, is empowered and is allowed to be independent, we'll all have to benefit from it, because that way we can now task them to what you call to be more productive or more creative. Because scientists are telling me they cannot do experiments because they don't have the labs.
Yeah,
When I tell them they don't invent things, how can they invent
When-
when they can't do experiment? But to that point, we should also see that some of these ASU people, when they leave Nigeria, they actually excel elsewhere. Our doctors excel, our scientists excel, our social scientists excel.
So what is the problem?
So the problem goes to that point of the vision of governance, the structure of governance. Government needs to sit down and say, I believe in education. I mean, You're talking about
education not as an end, but as a means.
As a means for everything, to live well, as a means to have good drivers on the road, as a means for people to take care of their health, as a means to understand the need to be productive in your place of work, and as a means not to steal. But we have to have that view. When, in the Western region, when Obafemi decided to do free education, there was no money, he devised means. Part of it was taxation. Direct taxation for education, levies. So but you see, he did that because his vision on education was huge. It was a pillar of his all governance thing. So if you have in governance people who believe that education is important, they will sit down and look at it. Imagine if they attached 50, 40, I would even do 30% of the importance they attach to education to elections. Imagine if government and the people of Nigeria attached the importance they did. I would even do 20%. That attention, that interest they have in elections, if they gave 20% of that to education in Nigeria, who would have fantastic students? And that way...
And society benefits.
And society will benefit. And society will benefit a lot more. They will have writers who can write, singers who can compose, doctors who can really treat. And that is where productivity comes from. You see, this idea that it is opportunities that matters, not planning, is wrecking the country. We need to know that the world, the new world, is led by ideas. It is led by people who think, who create things.
And you must empower people to have.
And the only way to do it is by training people.
Okay. Now, the number of public universities in Nigeria are over 100, including the state universities. Sometimes they even call for assistance from the federal government to assist here and there in some special intervention in some areas. Do you think the number of universities, public universities in Nigeria are too much?
Are they too much?
Or too small?
Go and ask the students trying to get into there. Have you seen jam queues? Have you seen people who want to do medicine, they end up doing microbiology? Have you seen people? It's not enough.
All right.
You know, we just say
But government is overwhelmed already by funding all of these.
Yes, that is the problem.
That it's not enough, or we're paying too much attention to university education that really leaves a person not prepared for the real world at the end of the day?
I argue two things against your position. Number one is when you talk about this vocational, you're talking vocational education.
Skilled
polytechnics.
Okay, you say I argue two things. I like to be fair. I have noticed the Nigerian elites, the middle class, when they talk about vocational education, which is a necessary thing, they never intend it for their own children. It is always for other people they want to send there.
Still look down.
So that on one side. But the other thing I argue is this: we need to understand that the era in which we are today, a bachelor's degree, whether it's a BA or a BSc, does not give you a job. It does not turn you to a professional. To become a professional, after your first degree, you need to do something else.
You need to have a certain skill.
You need to have certain skill. And that skill...
Is it just something else? Sorry to cut you because we don't have time.
That's fine.
I mean, one of the top educators, the VC of UI actually, said that there's a need for the university curricula to actually be reformed in such a way that it will give, entrepreneurial education.
I disagree with the VC. I disagree with the VC. You see, the point is this. The university education, what it has turned to, gives you basic understanding of how to read, write, gather data, and interpret them. And that is a level which everybody should reach. After that, you now decide what you want to do in life, and that is when you go and get that professional skill to do it. And if you look at it, I'm not saying something new. If you want to be a banker, you get mass communication, economics, physics, or anything, then you go for a training in banking. If you want to be a journalist, if you want to be any of you guys, you didn't come out. TVC is not going to take you out of university and throw you in front of the camera. You then went to sharpen your skills, either in-house or in a school of journalism. This idea, I think one of the errors we make, there are two errors we make in planning Nigeria when it comes to education. One is this idea to think that we need more entrepreneurial school. If there's one country, Nigeria, does not need to train entrepreneurs in the world, it's Nigeria. Nigerians are naturally entrepreneurs.
Natural born.
They don't even need to be encouraged for it.
Natural born entrepreneurs.
Good point.
We have to leave it here
but
now.
refining it is another problem.
Yes.
All right, just to put this out there, 1 naira 15 kobo is the per capita that government invests in education in Nigeria compared to India, where it's 135 naira, and US $188. And a link has been established between, you know, countries' competitiveness and, of course, the
spending. You bet there is.
Okay, we have to leave you here now. Professor Anthony Killer, Director of Studies at the Center for International Advanced and Professional Studies. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.